Melissa. So
Yes.
we can, I think, get both a national and local perspective. from
That's
some of your
right,
work.
local and national. Hi, folks, I'm Melissa Irby. American Institutes for Research has offices around the globe. I am a remote employee from Richmond, Virginia, but I work out of the Washington, D.C. office, which is over in Georgetown, not too far away. Briefly, I just want to say that I'm kind of bringing the perspective of in the trenches. I do not have PowerPoint slides. Forgive me. I just thought maybe we could just chat. How many teachers do we have in the room? Right on. How many principals? Other school administrators? State folks? Policy people? People who've heard about the lunch and know that it's fantastic. All right, great. Okay, well, I'm a former teacher. I've taught elementary school, middle school, high school. I'm also a former principal, and that's kind of what brings me here today in my trajectory of 30 years, as of this summer, 30 years in education. My bio says a little bit, but to hopefully give you some sense of the kinds of school districts that I've worked with as a school improvement specialist: Detroit Public Schools, Chicago Public Schools, Providence, Rhode Island Public Schools, Clark County, Las Vegas Schools, Alexandria, Virginia, Richmond City Public Schools, Norfolk City, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. All over the map, there are schools, and they have some very common threads that cause them to be low performing. And there are some common threads that will help them achieve the student performance gains that our students deserve. And as Nina said, cradle to career is really what we need to be focused on. So my comments are coming from some research. We responded AIR to the SIG research. This is in your packet. It's called, if we want schools to improve, if we want to improve low performing schools, we need to focus on the adults. And we do. No school is any better than the adults in the building, and it never will be. As a former principal, I can tell you I inherited a school the month after the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. I had no desire to be a principal. I didn't know I was going to be a principal. I was asked to go into a school and make it safe, and I stayed there for 6 years. We did. We had to make it safe because there were drugs and gangs and knives and weapons and teachers who didn't want to be there and students who didn't want to be there, and we had to pick ourselves up, really. This was in 2001, so we had to pick ourselves up with not only common sense, but with some good basic tools of improvement, like looking at student achievement data, common formative assessment, short cycle assessments, meaning we do not wait until the end of the quarter or the end of the semester or the end of the school year with our summative data and then try to determine what our students' needs are. That's insane. You know, we have schools every day that are doing just that still. But I get ahead of myself. There's a couple of main levers for school improvement. And the first one, as all of our folks have said, is the strong leader. And it's not easy to find a leader of a school who has all of the things that have been mentioned here by the panel and is also, as research proves, a data analyst guru who can not only look at all of the data, but teach his or her instructional leaders and teachers and students how to use that data to make instructional change that is then in short cycle followed up on, remediated, retaught, enriched, and the cycle continues. That is one of the number one levers for change per Paul Bambrick Santoya, if you know his leverage leadership work. It says if you're a principal and you do two things the first year, do these two things. Focus on the data, make sure you know it, okay, as a principal. And two, what's the second one? Somebody mentioned it today. Number one, data. Number two, get in those classrooms, observe your teachers, and give teachers feedback, okay, because teachers want to improve. Now, back to principals. Not every principal comes to the table knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it with data. But guess what? You got to learn. And districts and states, too, have a responsibility in helping the principals get where the principal needs to be. I can tell you I've worked with school divisions where the principal relies on other folks in the building to provide the data around student achievement. I see heads nodding. I talk to principals and superintendents who, say, "Where's the data? Let's look. Let's crunch. Let's see what your trends are. Let's see what your most immediate needs are." Well, somebody at the district has that data. I'll have to get it from them. Okay. As a former principal, I didn't. I knew the data. I had it spread out on my den floor before I ever shared it with any of my teachers or any of my teacher leaders. Principals must be able to own that data and be able to speak to it to whomever walks in the building. Research also says around leaders that they have to have a plan, and the mission and the vision has been spoken about today a couple of times, but I think whether you use the term theory of action or whether you use very simply, this is what we need to do, this is how we're going to do it, this is when we're going to do it, this is who's going to do it, okay, and this is what's going to happen if we do it. That's a theory of action, okay? It's pretty simple. The kids can understand that. Why we have, it's not a mystery to me, but it's frustrating to me when I go to districts and work with principals who are being supported, not only with the millions of dollars of federal support, which quite often, if I must be frank, buys programs that then are not necessarily tracked, accounted for, used according to the achievement data, followed up with, ensured that writing, reading, math, ELL, whatever it is, program is serving the discrete needs of every child in that school, and we know that it is. We have evidence that it is. Okay? We've got a lot of programs and compliance check marks. I'm not making this up, by the way. It's in the research. I don't want you to think I'm getting on my soapbox here. I know I sound like it. But, sometimes school improvement can be a checklist. This is what we need to do. I'm going to do it. And we end up with the same thing that we've always gotten. Okay? Got to go back to what the reason we're there as leaders and as teachers is to serve the individual learning needs of every child. And in many of our low-performing schools, as in the school that I was principal of, the social, emotional needs have got to not come before, but they have to be aligned with those learning needs as well. We have to serve Melissa's trauma because she's grown up in a very challenging, scary environment. Okay? I don't know if you all have seen the movie Moonlight. Okay? Nod your head. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. If you don't like it, I'll reimburse you for the ticket or the home rental. You see there the main character. He's a victim of trauma. Okay? It's nothing we can necessarily see that he goes through. It's just going to and from school every day and living in a home with a mom who's an addict. Okay? We have to serve the needs of those children as well as their low-performing needs. 4 minutes left. Let me move to our second lever of power lever, and that's our teachers. Okay? Nina eloquently said, and I believe John touched on this as well. Oh, I'm sorry, it was John. But Nina, you too eloquently touched on it. But we get teachers in low-performing schools, and we have to keep them, okay? Because teachers are not standing in line to come to low-performing schools, and principals are not standing in line waiting to go to low-performing schools, okay? So if we're district people and we're state people, we could talk for much longer on what we need to do to support these people. But when it gets down to leaders and teachers, it's one of two things. People either don't have the skill that they need to do the job that you're asking them to do, or they don't have the will. They don't have the skill, or they don't have the will. And guess what? It's a simple formula, you math people. You figure out which one it is they need, and you give them what they need. Just like kids. Is it a skill thing? Is it a will thing? Okay? If you don't have the will, I'm going to help you find the will. If you don't have the skill, that's easy to fix. I can help you get the skills. Another thing our research proves is that teachers, and I found this in my own experience as a principal of a school with teachers who either were placed there because other schools didn't want them, or because they were brand new teachers, or because they were career switchers and nobody wanted to take a chance on them. And they came to the school, didn't know what they were getting themselves into, and then they found out that our children were 2 to 3 years behind grade level in all of their core subjects, and we had to expedite their learning so that they could get ready and go to high school. We did a number of things in our school. We were recognized by then Governor Mark Warner, who's now a senator, as being a lead turnaround school, and we're recognized for some of the things that we did that put kids' achievement first. And you know what? The district also supported us. The research will tell you it helps to have incentives for teachers and principals that go to low-performing schools, but with those incentives must be tied, it must be monitored, and you must have outcomes that are expected. The incentives for teachers to come to my school was you got a longer school year. That meant you got more pay. You were an 11-month employee instead of a 10-month employee. But that month of August, you were on site planning with your grade level teams and planning vertically in your content area, and we knew what every child was coming in that door with in terms of their mastery of standards on the Virginia SOL test, period. That's your magic bullet right there. Where is every child's level of mastery on the standard of your particular benchmark? Now remember, that's just the benchmark, that's just the standard. There's so much more we want our kids to be able to do, obviously, but on a, for kids that are underperforming and are low in skills, we have to get them at least to that standard. One more thing before I close. Obviously leaders, teachers, a collegial environment, teacher collaboration. Trust building, team building, that doesn't happen by osmosis. As a leader, as an instructional leader in the building, you have to make sure that you put things in place so that happens. People don't just work together on a team just because, they want to. They have to be taught. Just like our students need to be taught how to work in cooperative groups, we have to teach our teachers. We have to, as Jenny said, we must distribute leadership. We must share leadership, but we don't do that haphazardly. Robert Marzano's got the best hands-down work, I think, on how you distribute leadership, and he can tell you what a leadership team can do and what a principal needs to keep for themselves and how you structure that, what it looks like. Teachers must work together. They must common plan. Crickets, 2-minute warning. They must common plan. Professional learning communities are great, but they need to be focused on data. Okay? Bottom line is, strong leader has to be the data, the data guru. And every decision in the school must be based on data. And it's not just achievement data, it's also all of your leading and lagging indicators that are out there. Okay? A leader cannot do it alone. You must empower your teachers. Teachers want to be leaders. I was a teacher leader. I didn't know I could until somebody, tapped me and said, why don't you try doing this, doing that? And gee, you never know how a teacher is going to be able to help you. As a principal, I found teachers who were expert in their content because I needed somebody to help their colleagues, lead them through that content and break down those standards of learning, okay? But also knew how to work with people and lead a team. And we worked hard in professional development around that. So there are many other things that certainly we could talk about, but I hope, and there's some lessons learned in here, of course, around the research, but I think on page 7 it talks about kind of like, well, now what? Well, one thing that goes without saying is that we have to find a way, we have to build a way to be able to hire and retain effective leaders and effective teachers. We have to, that's really the next step for me. And AIR is working on those things as well. There's research around there, and we help school divisions and states grow competency-based leaders and competency-based teachers. So
Great.
that's good for now.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, Melissa.